Welcome to another episode of the Air Raid Attack Podcast. I'm your host, Michael. It's an honor having a special guest today. As always, you can listen to us on iTunes and Google Podcasts. Of course, every Friday night live on the Unhinged Sports Network at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, and 7 Pacific. But without further ado, it is an honor to have our special guest for today's show. His name is Coach Flannery. He is the offensive coordinator at West Carter High School. He has also been the quarterback coach, the wide receiver coach, as well at West Carter. Long story short, he currently lives in Olive Hill, Kentucky. He has an awesome and understanding football wife and two beautiful little girls. And just a side note, he's played a different position every year of college and all special teams. Coach Flannery, welcome to the Air Raid Attack Podcast.
Hey man, I'm glad to be on. Glad we could hopefully get through our technical issues.
Yes, sir. And many of you may not be knowing, we were actually in the process of recording, and then technical difficulties on my side, and they've already been addressed. Hopefully, we get those fixed in the future for next week and moving on down the road. But in the meantime, Coach, 2020, we all know it's been a hectic year for us all, regardless from coaching to just personal life in itself. How has COVID affected West Carter football, the coaches, and how are you guys able to prepare each and every single game for Friday nights?
So with COVID, obviously everything was different. There's nothing in society right now that is the same. It led to us weirdly into some really key advantages, in my opinion. The first thing we did was strength conditioning. So at a small high school, I'm sure that some of the metropolitan areas and even some of the big schools in our, even in our state, they're going to have a dedicated strength conditioning guy. And there is rules in Kentucky when you can practice and when you cannot practice, right? And you have a dead period. Now, with that being said, on the college level, the NCAA restricts a lot, and they have strength coaches, and there's a whole slew of those guys underneath the head strength coach. And the only thing the players are allowed to do is run and lift. And if they do anything else, it's on their own. So college kids can get in a lot of install because you're going to have a quarterback, and they're just college kids. So with my experience with us, and it's not a good thing, but it just happens. You get super competitive in 7-on-7. So you want to make sure that you're ready to go for 7-on-7. I'm the world's worst. When we go out and play, I want to win a 7-on-7 game. So you get into putting strength and conditioning, maybe on a little bit of the back burner because we are around our kids. So we may not have a helmet, we may not have a ball, etc., but you still get into to installing some stuff and maybe doing some chalk talk, that kind of stuff with your kids. But with us this year, the only thing, we weren't allowed to be inside, so we couldn't live. So the only thing we were allowed to do with the kids is do just basic calisthenics, and we were only allowed to have so many kids come in at a time. So it was a little bit longer for the coaches than we usually spend in the summer, but we knew we had a really good team coming back. So we just we sucked it up, and we were out there, every evening that we could be, and the kids got in really good shape as a byproduct of that. So I feel like that's one facet of it. But the resilience that these kids had to learn on the fly, because we're going to play. We're not playing. We get to play. Season's canceled. In the world. Okay, now we're going to play. So this went back and forth forever, and our kids showed up every day and continued to do what most high school kids don't want to do, is run.
Yep.
So, I feel like that led to our advantage. Now, another part of that is other schools were in our same boat. They even all the way into July after the traditional dead period, you weren't practicing. You didn't get to have camp. You couldn't have two-a-days. You didn't get all your, I'm speaking offensively, you didn't get all your traditional install time to evaluate and learn your scheme. So with us, I'm a wristband guy. I had my quarterback back, had a great running back, all my receivers, offensive line, everybody was back. This was supposed to be, our year, quote unquote. So with me, I hit the first game running. We were able to have concepts that we already had in, and we were in shape, and we were ready to go.
Very nice. And of course, not to put anything on against Kentucky high schools, sports athletic association or anything. It's just talk. How close were you guys to knowing if a game was canceled? At least here in Oklahoma, where I'm at, Midwest City High School. Usually, we were always notified Wednesday, Thursday-ish. How soon notice were you guys given if a game happened to be canceled because of COVID?
So our athletic director and head coach did a really good job of staying on top of that. And in Kentucky, they had like this color map. And I promise you, for like 6 or 7 weeks of the season, I didn't even pay any attention to what it was. So I really didn't have any idea, because my thought was I don't want to know. It's out of my control. We're going off a color map. Like what is that? So and with COVID, the media has been terrible. I mean, it's just been up and down. And I was like, I don't even want to know. So you guys just tell me, and we'll try to get ready. Now with that, we didn't get to play our first 2 games. We started out with our rival, which was, we used to do that. Now we don't, because traditionally both schools in our school district aren't really strong. We don't have, they're not championship programs yet. So they quit doing that because it can make or break your season depending on if East or West Carter wins. So we got to start out with them. We were ready to, we had the advantage in that game. We played 2 non-district games, then we went straight into district play. We had a district team. We had a COVID cancellation in district. So we were scrambling around. We'd been playing really good. We were averaging like 50 points a game at that point. Our defense had only give up, I think, 4 touchdowns in our first 4 or 5 games. So we were like, we got to play somebody. They have an RPI ranking in Kentucky. There's all kinds that goes into that formula. So teams weren't wanting to play us per se, because the win and loss is one of the huge factors in RPI. So we ended up having to pick up on 2 days' notice, since you asked, Paintsville High School, which went on to win the single A state championship in Kentucky. Now, looking back, I think that was to our advantage, because it kind of brought us down a notch, let us know what we need to work on. But then this also reiterated that, the resilience that our kids had to learn. Right. And it was a good game. We didn't get embarrassed. We come up short. But I really do think that it helped us win, some more big games and make our deep run in the playoffs.
Talking playoffs, of course, losing in the state semifinals by a point to the eventual state champions. Once the final buzzer, once that 000 showed up on the scoreboard, what was the final message to you that you guys as a coaching staff was telling the players? Of course, losing in the semifinals, getting that far into the playoffs, of course, I'm sure is I never experienced it for my personal self, but I'm sure it's a tough stretch to get all that way and then lose by a point to try to make it to the state championship game.
Yeah, man, I didn't get to experience that either. And as a player, unfortunately, I didn't play on a lot of teams that won a lot of games in high school or in college. I think I was only on like one team that had a winning record. So for me, it was something new, but with the way the world was shut down and the only thing that we had normal going on was football, for our team and our team's families and my family, I was able to just be locked in. So there was I expected to win and be competitive, because once we got into the playoffs, I'm like, okay, all right, I thought we were going to be pretty good, but now we can legitimately play for a state championship. That was totally new to the coaching staff. The kids, they think they're going to win. When they have a little bit of swagger, but then also it's just an immaturity. They think they're going to win. And I remember back when I was young, I thought we were going to win every game, and we would get smashed. But so, after that loss, it was gut wrenching, because we were so close to making the ultimate goal. I think every year it's our goal to win the state championship. is that feasible? Do we have the talent every year? No, it's not true. But, I always say it's not so much like how good you are, it's who you're playing. And we just felt like that playing at 2A this year that we had a chance. And, we just told our kids you have nothing to hang your head about, because we had 2 losses this year and they were both the state champions. So, is that kind of like a moral victory? Yeah. But, we were disappointed. But, we had our chances. So, there's not like a bad aura around the program or the kids. Everyone's happy. There's no finger pointing. So, even in a loss, there was a lot of good that comes from a loss.
Absolutely. Of course, of course, losing the state semifinals is a tough one. And of course, a lot of programs, especially in the state of Texas and Alabama, and there's a few here in Oklahoma, not many, that are state championship or bust type of year, teams. But looking back, it's your guys' first 10-win season in program history. I'm sure that's definitely a tip of the cap to move forward into 21.
Yeah. So as coaches, you're happy for your kids that win, and we had so many first timers and record breakers this year and leading up to this year. So you're happy for those kids, but the affirmation that you get as a coach is like, okay, this is how we want to run our program. This is what we do. And specifically offensively, it's like, okay, I took this job being a coach's son. I've been around football my whole life. I played football. That doesn't mean that you're going to be able to effectively teach an offense or call plays. It's difficult. So for me, it's like, all right, I've been telling you guys this, players and the guys I coach with, because you're going to make them believe too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if we do this, this gives us the best chance to win. So the best thing for our program and our coaches is now we actually have some substance and, of wins and championship level play to say, hey, this is what we do and this is how we do it. And from going from there at a program like us, I think that's huge because we never had that before. It all comes from kids wanting to go hard or just being respectful in general. But now it's like we have that credibility. And I think going forward, that's going to be a huge, huge help for our staff and our program for years to come.
Oh, absolutely. It's an excellent way, especially with how, COVID affected the season, so on and so forth. Are you guys losing, and it leads into the biggest subject, which I would like to kind of discuss and kind of get your feet on, because it's quite interesting, is regards to how many returning kids from last year's Final Four team is coming back this year, and for West Carter.
Okay, so we have a running back coming back. He's a young kid, and he will be a junior, and I'm pretty high on him. I've been high on him since he was young. He got some action this year. He's a good runner, but he was backing up the state's leading rusher. So he didn't get as many reps as honestly as he deserved, but he did, I don't think a lot of people know that he's coming too. So I kind of like that part of it. We have 2 receivers that are coming back that after this season will shatter the receiving records. Basically all of them in West Carter. That's not, probably going to make ESPN, but it's a big deal for us and it's a big deal for them.
Absolutely.
So one of those is out with a knee right now. We expect him to be back. He's a real dynamic player for us. He scored a couple scores in the regional final and the state semifinal. So we have all those guys coming back to build around. We're going to have to replace a quarterback and we're going to have to replace a running back that's a Mr. Football candidate. So I can't say that, that we don't lose a lot. But at the same time, I feel really good about the kids we got coming back.
Very nice. And kind of lead into, a thing that you sent me prior to the show. And it's Kentucky Senate approves and sends to the House Senate Bill 128, which would allow students to stay in school an extra year due to disruption from the coronavirus pandemic. The vote was 36-0. Your thoughts on that? Of course, it's, I'm not for sure how far along they've got it, if it's a done deal, so on and so forth. But how would that change high school football for Kentucky if this thing was completely thrown?
From what it's another thing, I've kind of been handling that like I handled the season with COVID. It's like, I don't want to know. You guys just tell me and we'll go, because I don't want to get, my hopes up either way, just like scheduling with COVID. But I think maybe Florida's trying to do it.
We're nice.
So it's very, very unique. And I don't know, don't quote me on that. I think they are, but you're basically getting a 5th year eligibility. Now, the different school districts, I think, have to approve that, and that will have to do with funding.
Right.
Now, the $1 million question is will kids come back? I don't know. Some kids, we have 2 kids that have signed letter of intent. Mm-hmm. They will probably go on, because I don't know if colleges will hold money. So you have that facet as far as changing the dynamic of really good players coming back. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Probably they're going to move on. There's still the age restriction, and I think it's like August 1st. You can't be 19 before August 1st. So you're going to have some kids that are immediately going to be disqualified for sport just because of that. You're going to have kids that just want to go on. Now, on the flip side of that, with a team like, with the small school, we play 2A ball. Okay. So in Kentucky, it's single A and it goes all the way up to 6A. So in single A and 2A ball in Kentucky, if you have 1 or 2 dudes, you can be competitive. Mm-hmm. That's all it takes. So for me to sit here and say that, it's not that big a deal, it would be huge. If we had kids come back, it would be huge. Now, I haven't really spoke to a lot of them about it. And my biggest concern, like for us, that worries me, and I don't know that other people would think like this, but with us, we had a good year. We have a bunch of kids coming back. So they're going to have to re-up a commitment to try to win a championship, to play at a championship level. So that to me is, obviously I think everyone looking from the outside in think, well, why wouldn't they want to do that? If that's their prerogative, they want to come back to play sports, why wouldn't they? Well, it's hard work. Mm-hmm. And getting 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 19-year-olds to volunteer for hard work, I mean, it would be a hard sell, because they are just not going to be able to show up and play because they had a good season last year. Football does not work like that. No, it doesn't work like that in high school. It doesn't work like that in NCAA, and it don't work like that in the NFL. You still have to put in the hard work. Now, you're getting a do-over, right? So we all have things in our life that we want to do over, and I wish I would have done this, man. If I could go back, well, these kids are going to get to do that. Think about the stuff that you know about football now, or that you know about lifting weights or whatever. And if you knew that when you were 15, so these kids are going to get a do-over, but it's going to be a do-over with an expectation. I know for our program to work at a championship level. So that could be a good thing. And it could be a bad thing.
Well, absolutely. And, I actually was discussing when I got the notification from you. I was actually finishing up dinner and talking to the wife for a few minutes. And when I mentioned that was quite interesting in regards to how that would affect not just on the field, but in the classroom. And of course, I'm like you. I'm not much of a political guy, because unfortunately, I do kind of, when I do say my 2 cents, it gets offended. But it is neither near or there. But it's going to be interesting nonetheless. How that will or potentially could affect not just West Carter, but just high schools in general this year.
Yeah, there's a political aspect of it, and with anything is decided by a state senate or nationally with the U.S. Senate or the U.S. House or the state house, somebody's going to be mad. It doesn't matter what it is. So you're going to have that, and you're going to have people that, another thing I worry about is people like shaming these kids. like if they had the opportunity to do that and they come back and someone's like, why would you do that? I can't believe you would do that. Well, guess what? It's COVID and we got a lot of new normals. This is just another weird thing that's happening. But I also don't see anything wrong with a kid if he's like, you know what, coach, I want to go ahead and go to school, or I got a job lined up, or this or that. Now, I will say this: we have kids that, you spent some time in Eastern Kentucky, right?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, we have kids that are in a welding program, a carpentry program, stuff like that. Well, they haven't been in school this year, so they are able in those programs to get certificates that, in essence, saves them money. Because if they weren't able to do that via the public school system, they would have to go to vocational school or, a 2-year college, that type of deal to get some of those certificates. So it actually saves them money. I was also talking to a friend of mine about, well, if they get to come back to school, why couldn't they take all AP courses or college classes on the school district's dime? And I don't even know if they even make them. I don't know if the school district has to pay for AP courses or college courses. I don't know how that works, but I know the kids aren't out of pocket. So if you go an extra year of high school and you were ready academically, you could hypothetically get 12 hours, 20, maybe an entire year of your gen ed courses in college paid for. So that's another thing that, looking at it not from sports, if kids could do that, that's huge for kids. Plus all the social stuff, that was so hard for us this year, is we had a good season and, nobody could come to our games. We don't have a lot of people in town, but, they didn't get to come, and that's bad for the kids. They don't get that prom, all of that kind of stuff. So, I get the bill. I don't know how it'll work out, but I definitely think the pros outweigh the cons. Well, I think negative stuff is going to be stuff people create about, is what I think.
No, absolutely. And with this thing, I think a lot of people can create so much negativity with COVID, and here's what you shouldn't do, here's what you should do, so on and so forth. And in this case, maybe an extra year, I'm sure maybe we all may look 10 years down the road and be like, hey, that extra year for these kids actually more panned out for them than it did hurt them.
Sure. I don't see how, starting life at 19 or 20 isn't better. Lots of times, parents will hold kids back for sports. And then, sometimes kids get held back because, they needed it. They needed it academically. They needed it socially. I have 2 daughters. I'm cool if they stay here, forever. You know what I'm saying? So there's that part of it, and kids, kids are, they're mature in a different way. But I think going out on their own is, society's just a little bit different now. It's not as hard knocks as it used to be, and they have they just have it easy. The United States is still a good place to live. Especially if you're a teenager. It's easy, it's good. So, get another year of that, I don't think it could hurt.
No, I personally think, in Oklahoma, the Oklahoma's not to bash the education system, but I know I can speak for itself. The Oklahoma State, at least education side, is not the best. So I think the next year actually could benefit the kids, at least, specifically, and it may help in the recruiting process as well for them. But you look at it, kind of recap and finish off 2020 season. You won against Russell High School, ended a 30-year drought losing streak to them on a Hail Mary. What was that feeling like when that ball was caught and the game was over and went into the West Carter's favor?
So I'm going to be totally honest. I'm a coach's son. My dad, he's coached at West Carter for over 40 years and still helped us out. So, a water boy, ball boy, my brother played. So I have been, firsthand witness to a lot of beatdowns by Russell. They're a good program. But at the same time, since I've been coaching, there's been games they've beat us by one, a couple scores, some heartbreakers that I feel like you should have just got over that hump to beat them. They used to be in our district when we were 3A. So it's a common opponent. That's why we've played them for 30 years. Since we dropped down to 2A, they're not in our district anymore. Okay, they're still 3A. So Coach Barker, got together, talked to me. We confided in each other, and it's like, look, let's keep them on the schedule and let's beat them. So we elected to play them as a non-district game. Let's keep them on there. They beat us for 30 years. We got to get them. So the stars aligned, and we had a good team. They by no means were a bad team, but they've had some really, really good teams as well. So the stars aligned on that. We were more than competitive. It was a really good game. Probably it might have been our most physical game of the year, and we won on a last second Hail Mary, and we, since I've been offensive coordinator, we've went over, we call it LSU. So it's a Hail Mary at the end of the game. Me and Coach Barker were Cats fans. I think Saban was at LSU when that happened. Is that right?
Yeah, I think Nick Saban was at LSU when the Kentucky fans ran on the field.
Yeah.
So the end. Yeah.
Yeah, the Bluegrass Miracle, right? Yep. So we call it LSU. And we repped it. And as far as execution, it's as good as the high school kids that I get the opportunity to coach can do. It was executed perfectly. From the quarterback putting the ball, the kids getting to be. It was one of those deals where you stack up and the one kid tries to tip it. It was that, and they did it. And we didn't have any timeouts. They lined. It was just. And man, I was like literally like speechless crying, like, because I was just so excited because especially for my dad, and then Coach Brown who had coached forever, and that I played for and that I coached under. We had come close, but I was just so happy for just the program in general. That it was a really good thing, and there was some not so much social distancing on the field on the celebration. I'm like, oh my God, we're going to be on the news, but so for a good 15, 20 minutes after the game, we no one cared. And again, with COVID, that was another moment of bonding and getting together to make the playoff run that we didn't get to have, because you had a year you don't get to have pep rallies.
Nope.
You don't get to, what I'm saying? You don't get to have any of that stuff. We usually we got a local business owner lets us do some stuff in town, and we just never got to do any of that. So you had a moment there to where everyone just didn't care for a second, and we all got together and had a good time. So that helped as far as the team building and just everybody getting behind this team for a playoff run.
That's nice. And I think regardless, I'm sure that 15, 20 minutes that there was no social distancing, I'm sure it was well worth it. It was well worth the fact that we can miss that out for 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, man, it's just been a hard year. You want to try to, I know that with my job, I've had to wear masks since it started, and the stress level, I think, is the big thing. I'm so over COVID and the arguing and people, everybody's an expert. I've been an expert. Everybody knows everything about it, but really like you said a minute ago, like the negativity and the stress level that it brought everybody up. Again, if we didn't get to play football this year, it would have drove me crazy. And I don't think that the mental health of some of these kids really went into the factoring whether these different states let these kids play or not. I know, like, is Cali and some of those schools are they even playing yet?
I don't think they did. I know here in Oklahoma, I can at least speak for Oklahoma. Midwest City High School, we canceled, I think, 3 of the 10 games. I think there's only 7 games played, and the playoffs were shortened and everything else. And I think the first round of 4A was canceled as well. So, and then I guess they had whoever the team that did not have COVID, the other team advanced. So the whole thing was messed up. I think the season almost ended close to Christmas time, but it was an interesting bout nonetheless.
Yeah, definitely a double-edged sword there when it comes to the kids. You want to make sure everybody's safe, right? Because COVID is it's real, and and there's unfortunate people have lost loved ones, but at the same time these kids they weren't affected as much, and they basically you're just saying like, look, you can't do anything that everyone else has got to do in your childhood and adolescence, and that's hard on their mental psyche.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize, maybe not at West Carter, maybe not Midwest City High School, but maybe at Hoover, Alabama, maybe that Hoover High School or East Carter High School or something. You may have those one or two kids to where high school football keeps them out of trouble or anything like that. So people don't realize that high school sports plays more of a role from just playing on the field. It might be a life changing thing for them, and down the road instead of continuously be in trouble with the law.
Oh, no doubt. I think that's football for me is it's like a hobby of mine. I don't golf, I don't fish. I'm a paraprofessional. I don't teach in the school. I coach football.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I enjoy it, and it's for me. But the byproduct of that is I get to be around these boys. I'm 35. I don't know everything. I'm not the perfect parent. I'm not I don't know everything, but the positive influence that I've got to have on them as a whole is great. And then, I think as a coach and anybody that's coaching, you always got a couple special kids that you just related with or whatever, and you help them go on making good decisions. And I got guys that I still talk to. You get a little father figure stuff there, and then man, it's teaching them to work hard, to do something that is bigger than them. Because everything now with these kids is instant gratification. I don't know how we get these kids to play. They got their phone, they got everything right at their fingertips. So I think that in keeping these kids out of trouble and just giving them something constructive to do. I just feel like that and mental health got overlooked when all the powers that be were trying to look out for the kids.
Oh, absolutely. And a good question is, and I think I asked it as a buddy of mine that asked the question to Coach Collin. I'm just going to pretty much sum it up for you. Is in regards to social media, practically, as we speak, literally, well, heck, my two oldest boys, they have a tablet, for that they got to be on. Like, no, stay away from that crap. But in regards to social media, in regards to that kind of stuff, how do you kind of break that negativity that we see on a daily basis on social media? How do you try to kind of not really so much force it away from it, but kind of address it with them?
So the start of our season, when we first got our kids back, when we were conditioning, you had all the civil unrest and you had the racism issues and stuff. So that was like one of our first times that we felt that like we needed to address these kids of like, look, you can't put whatever you want on the internet. Like you can't do that. Right. We don't have control over you. Your parents do. But like, look, if you're going to be a part of this team, you can't just be saying whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, with racism and stuff like that, I'm like, look, if somebody says something racist to one of us, like, I'll handle it, right? Yep. That's not your place as a kid to be. That's not fair. That's not you. We'll handle it. So you got to be cognizant of that kind of stuff. When it comes to like the sports part of it, it's a hard thing to control. But I think as long as it's like all fun and games, because these kids, that's how they communicate.
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm saying? You're not driving over to the other town on Thursday at the cruise spot and like, creeping out the windows. They're going to get on the internet and, post a picture or whatever they do. So I think as long as nothing's like highly inappropriate, I think these kids, that some of the people in the old school, they're just going to have to accept that that's how they communicate.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. And of course, on the joking side, are you out there TikToking, dancing, whatever you want to call those things? Are you dancing on TikTok?
So it's funny that you asked that. So we started doing a thing with TikTok with wrestling videos.
Nice.
So it's, we're hillbilly. We don't have these expensive computers and all of like the sweet video editing. All right. So TikTok's free. So we started doing wrestling videos and making like our own little generic hype videos. Well, we started doing it. Well, then we had to continue to do it because we started to win games. And it was like a little bit of like, kind of talking a little smack, but at the same time, it was still a huge joke, right? Because it's like, we might have like Ric Flair or whatever, talking about being the greatest ever or whatever before a game. Yep. And it was fun. And that's what I mean about like that. This is what these kids identify with, and that's how they communicate. So I think as a coach, like with us, with myself, like having a social media presence that's appropriate, that I can, it's cool for the kids to give me a like or they know it's me or whatever. I think that helps me as a coach relate to them.
Oh, absolutely.
Because man, listen, it can be difficult to communicate with them. So if you don't have like that little bit of credibility with them that you're, I'm not an old guy, but at the same time, I'm not 18 anymore. They don't look at me as a peer. So it kind of helps you being like hip or cool, I think, with doing that. And you see it at the college levels.
Yes, you do.
And really even some of the stuff with the NFL, you got Cliff Kingsbury and some of those guys. There's some cool cats. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna put some stuff. They're gonna put some stuff out there to be cool. And I think in our society to be cool, unfortunately, you have to have a social media presence.
Well, it's true. I think, I personally don't have TikTok. I mean, I've heard good things, and obviously you got to watch. Just like my dad always said growing up, you got to watch, you got to be careful what you watch. And I think that goes with anything. And just in social media, you got to be careful what you post, of course. But, I think nowadays, I'm not too far behind you in age-wise. And I think it's probably one of the best ways to relate to some of these young kids is through maybe such as like a TikTok or maybe Facebook or Twitter, or Instagram or whatever, or Snapchat, whatever it's called. So I think that kind of stuff it does help, like you said, relate to them because you might also, you're not old, but at the same time, you're not 18. So it's like, how do I relate to them? Do I do it this way? Do I do that way? So I think social media does kind of help out, kind of break the ice, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. So like really, I'm the offensive coordinator, but really my main job is practice DJ. So
nice,
because we have we have track, we have like young kids running cross country, and then we play music the entire time on a loudspeaker. So I'm a Spotify guy, but sometimes if you get on a playlist that you didn't make on Spotify, anybody can add anything on there. So if you're not paying attention to what's going on, you can get some bad language in there. So the TikTok songs that get famous or whatever, I turn on Fleetwood Mac. And all the kids know Fleetwood Mac, and I'm like, okay, now we're all relating to a song that was like a number one hit in the 70s. So to get what you're saying, that you do, it helps you relate for sure.
It does, because I mean, it's just, cause I remember, when my grandpa passed away, excuse me, my senior year of high school, and back then social media wasn't the biggest hit in 06, but nonetheless, people don't realize that coaches, when they separate from game to real life, and I think that's where people kind of get the misconception of high school coaches is these hard guys that all they want to do is win, but that's what they see on the media version. The real version is these guys want to see their kids succeed and have any other issues, life issues and whatever may happen. So now people don't realize they don't give enough credit to high school coaches.
Yeah, for sure. It's you have to maintain it to be appropriate, but I mean sometimes in life there's things that everybody gets emotional about, and I think a high school coach has a connection with kids that their parents or their peers will never know, and it's a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. And going back to football, 82% winning percentage since joining the program at West Carter and under two different head coaches. I know, obviously, usually we see a trend, especially in the NFL, but you see a trend that head coaches get fired, Cleveland Browns, for example, maybe 1 or 2 years they're gone, so on and so forth. How has that affected, not really so much affected the success, but obviously winning 82% is obviously a phenomenal stat. What was I guess, how consistent were you able to kind of get the two coaches without losing any mishaps?
So I think the biggest thing is for the longest time we had like a stretch of like maybe 10 years that it was all West Carter guys. And not only was it all West Carter guys, every single coach on the staff, including the head coach, the offensive coordinator then, had all played for my dad who runs special teams. So you had all West Carter guys that had all either played together or another one had coached the other one. So the stability that we've had, and then our head coach now, he went to school, he went and coached somewhere else, earned his stripes, earned his experience, position came open, he come over. He was an assistant for a while. It was time for Coach Brown to move on. He wanted to retire. So we were still able to keep that nucleus of West Carter guys where everybody, no one on the staff was in it for themselves, right? I think that, I know for me speaking, I don't want to be anywhere else. So, and most of our guys that are West Carter guys on our staff, they feel the same way. We all want to be there and we're all in it together. And that's helped with our stability of our program with our coaches, which I think has led to the same group of guys at different times in different coaching positions or in different decision-making positions to get that winning trend going and getting our program to be respectable and to be at a championship level.
Absolutely. And kind of, small town football, which I like, we're 6A, but, it's, I think small town football is the best. I think it's more the personal feel, and just the excitement compared to it's more meaningful. I'm not saying that 6A, 5A, 4A is not, but smaller class is always the best fun.
So, at some of these major programs, these guys they're making a living coaching. And it's not as much in Kentucky, but you take a state like Texas, for example.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, those guys are making, high school coaches, even their assistant coaches, are making a living literally coaching football. So it's a business, right?
And their stadiums are almost borderline college type.
Right. So it's big. It's big business. It generates revenue for the cities, the school district. The coaches are well compensated. And then when you have small school football, especially in Eastern Kentucky, I was a volunteer forever. We have guys that volunteer now, and our guys either have to have another job or teach to coach. So I feel like that, along with being at a school, like we don't have to cut kids, so that it just makes it so much better. When we have kids that if we're, they get in at the end of the game, right? And you have that everywhere. But here it's kids that if they were at a 6A school, they wouldn't make the roster, right? Because, take like Louisville Trinity, for example, I mean, that's some real football, So the small school thing is they get to experience and play high school football, which is just so awesome. And it makes it so much different than the higher levels or the more well-funded programs or some of the bigger football states. It really makes it special.
Oh, absolutely. I played smaller ball in high school, so we were able to have more success. We weren't successful on the field winning wise. The mercy rule kind of came out quite a bit on us, but nonetheless, no, smaller ball is always fun. And you look at it, when you get volunteers involved, that's pretty cool because it's just there because of the love of the game compared to anything. And I think that's what, in my opinion, I think that's what is pretty awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, especially in Eastern Kentucky, it's awesome, man. It is so many people would have to before, or not people, but I mean like kids would have to maybe live like vicariously through a peer that was on the football team. And in Eastern Kentucky, man, you want to be on the football team, you can be on the football team, and that's awesome. I mean, I just can't speak for that enough. And then if you're a kid that maybe you're not a D1 prospect or whatever, but you're still a good high school football player. Well, you play small high school football. You're going to play offense, defense, special teams. Like you're going to feel like you're in a car wreck, man. Because you're going to get to play so much football, and that's great for those guys too.
Absolutely. Excuse me. I remember playing defensive end and tight end in high school. So at the end of the day, I mean, in special teams because it's 8-man football. So I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, you're gonna be you feel like you're a car wreck. I mean, it's definitely not easy, but hey, it's fun. It's football.
Right.
Keeping football, of course. And I believe you mentioned it earlier, but kind of touch base just in case. What actually I know growing up as a coach's kid, so on and so forth. So, what actually made you decide? You know what, I want to go into coaching.
So I mean, I think it is that. I think that and like being like family. So I didn't know anything else, right? My dad was a science teacher. He's a retired teacher. He coached. So as a young kid, I was always there. Now my he's 4 years older than me, so we never went to high school together. By the same token, we never went to college together. So I had like a double dose of high school football in our household. We had a double dose of college football in our household. Then that my family, but then also like we were talking about before, with the same coaches on the staff, their kids were playing. It's like a big family. So initially, just wanting to be there for family and branching out and playing college football, like a knowledge is power thing. So I was able to come back, even though as a young coach, I didn't know as much about football as I thought I did, and definitely didn't understand scheme. But I had practiced and played so much football to a high school kid, I was really valuable. So I think that part of it kept me doing it. And then once I got going, I got to where I enjoyed it, and seeing the kids develop and having that success on the horizon really kind of put the hooks in, because I coached with this group we've had this year. The majority of those kids, I coached them in JFL football. I coached them in middle school basketball. So I have a whole group of kids that I just got attached to coaching, and it was like, it's always one more year, because I'm going to get attached to the next one. Mm-hmm. And as long as my family is supportive of that, I don't see myself stopping, because it like I said, the reason I do it, it has to be a family thing. And I get to spend, my dad coaches, I get to spend so much time with him that most sons don't get to spend with their father. So that's huge for me too, right? So I think that's really the pull that a family can pull is what has kept me into football. And I think that's what's kept me coaching all this time.
That's awesome. And of course, father figures in itself is working with your dad is a lot of kids, like you said, not a lot of them can say that. And I got to feel, obviously I got to work with my dad last year or 2 years ago, I should say now, but no, with the Oklahoma City Dodgers, our baseball team downtown, but kind of scrolling through Twitter here quickly. Coach Barker, of course, he's excited for you to come in on the show. He wants to make sure you don't forget to mention his secret run it 3 times and punch strategy.
Okay, yeah, he so that's the growing pains of being a new offensive coordinator. And like I said, I don't know if I talked to you before when we were trying to record. When I come on as an offensive coordinator, I was fortunate enough that I got to play a lot of positions in college. But there was one thing I didn't know how to do. I didn't know how to pass block. Mm-hmm. Okay, I didn't know how to teach it. Anybody can get on the internet and look at a scheme, right? Yeah. But I needed to learn how to teach it. I needed to learn how to do it, myself. So we did that. I tried to get buy-in from the staff. They did. My offensive line coach is great. He just, whatever I say, he's cool with, which is great. It's a great dynamic. And it's not like I'm the boss. He just trusts that, I'm going to try to get all the resources I can to coach the kids. So we did that. And with that, I think when you do the system, or the Tony Franklin system, get into the air raid stuff. I love air raid. I love Mike Leach. You want to throw the ball, and I think anybody that's went previous, we ran option. We were option football. So I think anybody that goes from heavy run, heavy option football, going to full-time spread with an air raid flavor, you're going to have some major growing pains. Major growing pains. And I never really understood it with defensive guys, but it's like, if you throw an interception, it's the end of the world. Like, why are we doing this? But if a running back fumbles, it's like, of course everyone's mad, but it's like, you fumbled. So, you kind of get into that. And, this year we were able to RPO and do some pretty slick stuff. Well, 3 years ago we couldn't. We were trying to, but right. it just wasn't working out. So Coach is a defensive guy, and he kind of gets into it sometimes, especially early on. It's like, let's just punt it. Just punt it. I'm not watching this garbage. We just got to punt it. But I think anybody that's went from a heavy run game and switched over to the spread can probably relate, having to deal with the defensive guys on their staff.
Of course, and I know it's probably going to be a simple answer, but I want to ask it anyway. Throw out the air raid, just throw it out just for the side of it, just to kind of make it fair, quote unquote. But I'm more of a passing guy. Are you more ground and pound, or are you going to air it out through the air?
So I have I guess man crush is not a program. I'm a huge Mike Leach fanboy. Okay. So I grew up Tim Couch, Kentucky, all that stuff. So I was always fascinated by throwing the ball because I grew up in an offense. My dad coached an offense that, was ground and pound. So, I have my preferences. I like the air raid, but I think as far as what I think you should do or what I like, what are you asking?
Do both.
Okay. What I love air raid. I do. It's so simple. I think that you see it across all levels of football now. Mm-hmm. If you would have told somebody that Cliff Kingsbury was going to coach in the NFL after getting fired at Texas Tech, being an air raid dude, people tell you you're crazy, right? They say Mike Leach is going to go to Mississippi State and he's not going to do that, whatever. So they beat LSU, right? Throwing mesh over and over. So I love that. Now, high school, what I think you should do, I think that you have to do what your players can do, even if you don't know how to do it. Yep. So I think that's the beauty of it, is identifying what your kids are capable of. And if it's something you're not comfortable with, or you don't like, or you don't know how to do it, you got to go out and figure out how to do that. If I have a couple of like humongous 6'6" tackles show up next week, we're probably going to run behind them. If I go out this spring and we can zip the ball and throw the ball over the field, we're going to do that. So I like throw the ball. I like the air raid, but what I think you should do, I think you should ground and pound it if you got it. I had state's leading rusher this year, and I had a good quarterback and I had good receivers, and we could have tried to throw the ball from a philosophical standpoint or what I like, but he led the state in rushing. He's a Mr. Football candidate because of that. So, that's what we did this year. We were ground and pound. And we had a little RPO in there, but that just helps out the run game.
Of course it does. But no, that's nice because, because I've seen games. My dad's a Nebraska Cornhusker fan, so we watch Big Ten football, and if anybody's familiar with Big Ten football usually it's ground and pound. So, but if you can run it, like my dad would always say, why stop it? Of course, college football you played at Kentucky and then Morehead State. Playing at Kentucky, how was that? Of course, being in the SEC, my opinion, even though as much as people hate the SEC, love fest, but you gotta respect what the conference has done, especially with Alabama and LSU. But how was it like at playing SEC football and eventually go to Morehead State?
So, I definitely Kentucky my role. I was a program guy there, and initially getting there, it was just try to earn the respect of my peers and coaches. And I got to that point. I went in, we were on probation. Coach Brooks had just got there. Even when I was still there, we had, we lost some games that an SEC school has no business of losing. But I think the dividends paid off with Coach Brooks. They had some great years there. And just like the lessons learned, like to myself, of like determination and grit of doing things that when people tell you can't do something and then you go do it. I think getting that is a gift that UK gave me. And then as part of on the side of SEC being the best, look, you got to go to SEC football games.
I'm hoping to here. I know right now Alabama and Mississippi's 100%. If I can get, I'm gonna in October or hopefully even prior to head back to Eastern Kentucky and watch some football back there. Hopefully I can at least catch UK.
I mean, UK's got. I mean, they used to be kind of bottom of the barrel. Their facility is awesome. You go to a game down there, it's electric. But man, you start getting down in the South, and you go to LSU, you go to Death Valley, you go to the Swamp, you go to Alabama game. I mean, it is unbelievable. And I think people in Kentucky, they like football here. They like UK football. They do. But people don't understand the culture that surrounds that, and specifically the Southeastern Conference in the South. It's really unbelievable. And I think that a lot like where I'm from, a lot of people in Eastern Kentucky, they're huge basketball people and all that, and that's all fine. But man, anybody that goes to one of those games and sees the tailgating and the thousands, the hundreds of thousands of people that get into that, and all of those SEC schools for the most part are in smaller towns. Tuscaloosa is small, figuratively. Athens is small, right? Mississippi State is out in the middle of nowhere. So, all that gravitates to those small areas, and the entire cities are built around, in some cases, the football stadium. So, I mean, the SEC stops on that, no doubt.
Oh, absolutely. And hopefully I can attend. Well, I love my dream bucket list for each conference. I think Penn State was a Big Ten just because, the whiteout is phenomenal. But I think Alabama and Florida and Georgia, I think is the top three for sure down in the SEC country. Speaking of, Kentucky football, Louisville, of course, Kentucky's this basketball state if you want to go history-wise, but Mark Stoops has done a phenomenal job at Kentucky. Is it time that you can probably say that Kentucky's starting to change that basketball state to a football state just from Kentucky's success under Stoops, and then Louisville's getting back up to where they usually are?
I would say yes. And that is not because as much as the success of UK and Louisville football.
Right.
I think the rise in popularity of high school football that I've seen in this state, and the higher level of football that's being played at the high school level in Kentucky. You're starting to get more and more, highly star-rated recruits. Way more D1 guys. You're watching a team, even use us to our own horn. You got Wes Carter RPOing and playing super sound defense. The level of high school football is on the rise in Kentucky. And I think once kids are getting recruited out of these small areas, and even some of the bigger cities, I think people start attaching to college football. And then for most people, I was that way. There was no place I wanted to play but UK or Moorhead because that's where I'm from. So I think you can start seeing that with Kentucky, with people identifying with that because people they know or their schools are successful at football. And then, with UK basketball, I mean, it's a dynasty, but you get a lot of negativeness because the kids aren't from Kentucky playing there, and maybe that's a stretch. I don't think UK has, they can fill a whole roster with Kentucky boys, but, a lot of people would like to see that, right?
Oh, of course, absolutely.
And it's like anything else, man. If you're not winning, Kentucky basketball is on a level, if they don't win a national championship, it's a wasted year. Yep. And that's just irrational. So I think to answer your question, the rise of high school football in Kentucky is maybe making it more of a football state than per se UK or U of L, what they're doing. Not to say that they're not on the rise either.
Very nice. And, I back in the late 2000s where I attended KCU in Grayson, Kentucky, I can definitely tell you, you guys love the Wildcats. I even saw quite a bit of Cardinal fans out there, but I'll give you, a lot of passionate UK fans, and it was fun. I love, Eastern Kentucky is beautiful, and I know it may not be everybody's destination, but I would definitely say if you haven't been to Eastern Kentucky, I'd definitely check it out because it's beautiful.
Yeah, for sure, it is a beautiful place, and I think any place there's lots of beautiful places across the United States, but I think people from Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia, for that matter, are some of the best people. And you're a transplant, so when you were here, I think they're some of the best people on earth. Everyone's friendly. It's all close knit. So I think if you can get over some of the non-metropolitan things about Eastern Kentucky, I think that everyone should give it a chance and not just pass through. If for anything, if you're not impressed with the scenery, the people.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yes. And final question, Coach. Growing up, what was some of the players you admired watching, whether it's in college football or even the NFL? Who was some of your favorite ones growing up watching?
So for Christmas one year, it was when the NFL first started allowing Nike jerseys, right? It was a big deal. I don't know what they were before. Maybe I can't remember because I wasn't that into name brand stuff, but I was getting to be. They went Nike. So the Dallas Cowboys had Nike jerseys, and the one and only primetime Deion Sanders. I had the Deion Sanders jersey for Christmas, and I think it was sixth grade. I literally wore, the cheap screen print that used to be on the jerseys. Literally wore it off, wearing a deal. It looked ridiculous because it had the sleeves, the sleeves that come down past your elbow. Mm-hmm. Wore it off, and then another NFL dude was Randy Moss. I'm from the tri-state area, and he's from DuPont in West Virginia. So it was I was attached from that. He might as well have been from where I'm from, right? So and he's the greatest. So let's go ahead and throw that out there since we're on the internet. If anybody wants to at me, Randy Moss is the truth. So I think he might not too long ago let Jerry Rice know that. So just exceptional player. And the getting back to talking about people from Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia, when you hear Randy on ESPN now, he's got the same accent. He's saying the same stuff that everyone that ain't from here thinks is funny, and he's just it gives the appearance of being a media personality of just being a hillbilly and a redneck and a dude from Eastern Kentucky or from Appalachia, and I love that about him. Now, for sure, it makes me feel glad that I idolized him growing up as well.
Absolutely. I think Randy Moss, you can definitely throw in the mix, if not one of the greatest to play. And, a few, Paulie Tony Gonzalez, I enjoyed watching. John Elway, of course, people that don't, if you're listening behind me, Denver Bronco fans. So, but Coach, I know it's getting late back in your neck of the woods and all that good stuff. But, hey, Coach, you're more than welcome to come on anytime. It's been a pleasure, and it's been fun having you on.
Hey man, I appreciate you breaking me in. You know, being a noob to the whole podcast thing. But hey man, I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we can maybe do some more noteworthy stuff at West Carter, and we got something to to talk about.
Hey, absolutely. And final thing, how can people come if you're listening? How can they come and interact with you on Twitter?
Hey, I'm at Flavor Flan. So it is the most unprofessional thing. I feel like my wife was giving me slack about it. She's like, "Are you serious?" And I said, "Well, look, you know, life to me, life's too serious to not still have a little bit of fun." And you know, it was a Flavor Flav thing. So Flavor Flan, it went there, and you know, sometimes the kids will ask me about it, and I'm like, look, man, you gotta look up Flavor Flav, and you'll know what it's all about. But yeah, you can hit me up on there. Want to talk football? I try to keep a somewhat of a football presence on Twitter. That's kind of my thing on there. So yeah, I like to talk shop. I like to learn. I'm a huge internet football guy, so I really appreciate what Twitter has done. I mean, honestly, done for my coaching ability, for sure.
Well, I'm absolutely, and Twitter, I think, is, you know, I know you have your negativity with everything, but you know, so on and so forth. You will with every social media, but I think Twitter is pretty phenomenal because you can interact for the most part with almost literally anyone across the United States and into the world. So I think it's phenomenal how Twitter you can actually utilize towards your career.
Yeah, for sure. When UK just hired their newest offensive coordinator, I shot my shot, and I added him. You know, talking about a specific run scheme, and you know, and he hit me back. So to me, a guy that's coaching in the NFL that's taking a job that you know he didn't know me. That is awesome about Twitter, and that's what I try to do. I try to keep my Twitter like football only, and not let any of the negative stuff in on it. So when I get on my Twitter, it's football, football, football. So it's a good thing for me.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with football. Coach, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again for coming on. And like I said, you're more than welcome to come on anytime. Shoot me a text and we can just chat it up. Doesn't have to be football. We just chat up about life. And hey, it'll be fun.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Again, Coach Flannery of the West Carter High School offensive coordinator. Again, listen to us on the Unhinged Sports Network every Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. And subscribe and listen to us on iTunes and Google. Follow the show at airraid_podcast on Twitter. I will attach the coach on there as well. And also follow me on my personal Twitter, On Air with Mike. Everyone, have a great weekend, and we will see you all next Monday.